We are headed down to the Eagle and Lion Brewpub in Griffin, Georgia, a brewpub that specializes in cask-conditioned or real ales. This is only the third pub in the United States to specialize in real ale. Mark Breaux fell in love with real ale in England, where he was working as a chiropractor. He felt that there was something magical and even transcendental about drinking that perfect cask ale in a brewpub. Mark perfected craft brewing at the Grand Union Brewery in London. Mark had won many awards and decided to take this experience back home to the United States. We are lucky enough that Mark decided to do this in Griffin, Georgia. Here we are at the Eagle and Lion. These funny looking kegs are called casks or firkins. We're bringing the firkins into the Eagle and Lion Brewpub to be filled. Mark Breaux will take these casks and fill them with fantastic real ale. This real ale will then be brought back to Athens, Georgia and sold locally. This process is called doughing in. These grains are being rinsed out of this bag into the mash tun to allow the grain to steep like a tea. The resulting tea or sweet wort will be pumped over to the brew kettle. Here we are mixing the grains in, making sure that there aren't any dry pockets or dough balls as they're called. The mash is stirred to ensure consistency of the heat and also to make sure that everything's been blended in properly. You want to make sure that all that grain is equally wet and that we're getting all of the sweet, sugary substances that we can out of the grain. After mashing and after that grain bed is allowed to sit and steep, the sweet wort will be drained off and put into the boil kettle, and then you see here the sparge arm will spin around, rinsing hot water back onto the top of the grain bed. This water will be allowed to seep through the grain bed to rinse any remaining sugars that are left in the grain bed out. Here you can see the pump in action. You can actually see in the top right the sweet wort flowing out of the pipe into this bucket. As it gets really full, it switches a pump on. You can see the pump is pulling that sweet wort over into the boil kettle. Now you can really see that stream of sweet wort coming back into there. That will fill back up again and pump over into the boil kettle. Here you can see the volume of liquid in the boil kettle. And here we have a nice aerial shot of that sweet wort leaving this bucket and moving into the boil kettle. Alright, onto the wort chiller, a big important piece of equipment. This is peracetic acid in the pump right now. We're cleaning the lines. You can see the blue wort chiller hooked up next to that. That's going to take the heat off of the boiled wort, drop it down to a fermentable temperature, probably somewhere in the mid 60 degree area. Here we see Mark tightening the fittings on the fermentation tank to ensure that we don't lose any of that fantastic sweet wort that we're going to pull over from the boil kettle. Here we see Mark pretending to fill some casks. He's kind of basically showing us what you need to do to fill a cask. Casks are different than American Sankey kegs. Casks have to be filled from the side. So there's an opening on the top of the cask that you would set on the side and pound a tap into. Then there's the bung on top that you allow the cask to breathe through. You can see him filling through the bung. And here's Mark using the beer engine, showing us how to pour a proper cask ale. So you can see that it takes many pulls on that beer engine. A simple machine that's used to pull the liquid out of the cask itself and put it into the glass to give you the perfect pour. And that concludes our visit to the Eagle and Lion Brewpub in Griffin, Georgia. We hope you guys can go down and check it out. It's a fantastic place, and cheers.